Askreddit. r/askreddit by Reddify. Gun shop employees of Reddit. What awesome reso gave the dude $2.20s and expected all of his change back. Guy came in looking to buy a handgun. His girlfriend decided to wait in the car while he did the paperwork. Since he didn't have a carry permit, so he couldn't pick up the same day, Florida law, and as soon as he left and got in the car, his girlfriend starts yelling at him and slaps him, because she apparently didn't think he was actually buying. The next day my boss called him and told him that he wasn't going to sell to someone in his situation, and the guy thankfully agreed. Another time a woman came in and told us not to allow her brother to get a carry permit, and provided us his name and her contact information. Edit, just remembered another one. We list stuff on Gunbroker, an auction site, and a guy who was living within driving distance won a .38 Smith & Wesson revolver from us. I wasn't there when the guy came in, but apparently the guy had forgotten his ID when he first showed up. Sounded suspicious since he had to travel about 45 minutes to get to us and had to come back another day. Next time he shows up, he still has nothing proving he's a Florida resident and claims he's a merchant marine. Like that somehow makes it better. Needless to say, he got an F on his Gunbroker reputation and number 38. Regarding the carry permit, can someone do that without justification? Like, can I go to the fun store and tell the guy that my cousin is unhinged and probably shouldn't own a gun? Side note, I noticed the autocorrect mistake. Going to leave it there. I suspect that would fall under the "we reserve the right to refuse service to anyone" bit, as wanting a gun but your relatives disagreeing isn't a protected class. No business has to serve any individual, as long as their reasoning isn't actively discriminatory to a protected group. A bartender can cut you off after one drink, or even no drinks, if he doesn't like the way you're acting. A coffee shop can tell you to stop coming in if you keep trying to scam a free caramel latte after paying for a small black coffee. A restaurant can ask you to leave if your behavior is loud and disruptive to other guests. That man may have had the legal right to own and carry a firearm. Red flags that have caused you to deny a sale of a firearm. Serious. I worked at a larger sporting goods store, so when I came in for my shift, I had to finish this old guy's paperwork. He starts telling me about the gun and how he can't wait to shoot it. So I look at the paperwork, and a woman applied to buy the gun. Big red flag. And he told me that his wife was filling out the paperwork. He told me it doesn't matter who signs for the paperwork. Huge red flag. So I talked to my manager about canceling the sale. Then the guy stormed off super pissed. But they said he'll probably do it again at another store. Sounds like he isn't allowed to own firearms or something. Yeah, that's what we figured. We told him to fill the paperwork out himself, but he didn't want to. I work at Field & Stream and have sold firearms for a collective 2 years now. I had one guy who came in all strung out. He was looking for a pistol gripped shotgun to take care of some business. I took it upon myself to see what this business was. He then tells me that he has to take care of his girlfriend's husband because he owed him drug money. All he offered for ID was a TWIC card. That was an easy turn down, but he didn't end up being too happy about it. Another guy I had come in on Black Friday wanting to buy a Ruger LCP for his wife. Well, nothing illegal there, because if you are under the same household then it isn't technically a straw sale. Anyways, the guy wanted the LCP and handed me a Florida driver's license. I'm in Alabama, so I can't transfer a handgun across state lines. 2 hours later, a male walked in and said that he was told by his friend that you can't transfer handguns across state lines, so he wanted to purchase it himself. Well, that's not the wife he said he was buying for, nor was it anyone related to him. Insta straw sale and shut him down. The previous guy came in and started screaming at me. They left with our security guy pushing them out. Oh yeah, the out-of-state ID was a common issue for me too. Forgot about that. It is only for handguns. But I lived in Alaska, where a lot of people would come up to visit and want to buy a handgun for camping or hiking, or whatever. My boss refuses to sell to anyone without a Florida ID. Don't want to waste time looking up the laws and procedures of their home state. especially if it's places like New York. Speaking of, one guy from New York once came to us saying that he looked at the law and came to the conclusion that we could legally sell him a steer AUG because it's a long gun. The AUG sure as hell isn't legal in New York, so it was an immediate no. Instructor for a hole in the wall joint here. Saw a dude's probation officer's business card in his wallet. Had a possibly homeless woman ask for a little gun, not like to kill anybody, but just to teach them a lesson. On the second story, kind of makes you wonder how many lives have been saved because someone was being stupid. Like if she had known to keep her mouth shut, she may have just gone and killed the guy. Or maybe he would have killed her if she was homeless. I wonder if she was okay, honestly. Maybe she felt she needed something to defend herself from someone in particular. Used to work at a gun store in California. Had this guy come and attempt to buy an R on the ATF form 4473. There's a question asking something like, have you ever been convicted of a misdemeanor of domestic violence? Person marked yes to this question. So I'm really put off, because it's pretty obvious that column of questions must all be answered no. So I asked him if he marked that on accident, and he told me no. That he had in fact been convicted of domestic violence. Told him sorry I couldn't sell him the gun and to have a good day. Comes back a week later with his wife. Points to the same R on the shelf. And says that's the one he wants. His wife comes up and says she'd like to buy that R. My coworkers and I witnessed the whole thing and they knew about my experience the week before. So we told them that was illegal and said we couldn't sell either of them a gun. The wife refused to take our declination and got mad that we wouldn't sell it to her. We made it crystal clear to her that if she bought that gun for him after openly admitting it to us that it was for him, she would be committing a felony. She did not care and wanted to proceed. We told them to leave or we would call the police and have them deal with it. They left. How dumb can you be? I don't work in a gun shop, but I've had something similar happen with alcohol. Young guy puts ear on the conveyor belt, hands the money to his friend and leaves the store. I have to refuse the sale at that point. Thing is, I used to do the same thing when I was his age, but at least I wasn't an idiot about it. My god. Everybody knows the underage people have to wait in the car. He probably also, but that doesn't mean that any given gun shop was legally obligated to sell him one. Guy comes and wants to get his first gun. Talk to him about rifles, shotguns, and handguns, but is certain he wants a pistol. Spend about an hour showing, talking, explaining. By the end he has come to the decision of a Glock 19. Not the most expensive gun. Not the cheapest either. Start paperwork, but his address doesn't match his license. Form states that it must be a valid government issued it with a valid address. Tell him he has to get license changed. Well, the online deal says he needs a new photo. Goes to EPS. Gets address change plus photo. And comes back like 3 days later. Finish background check and start talking about ammo. Decides he wants a box of self-defense and 2 boxes of range ammo. Got to the money part and was short $20. Went to the bank to get some more cash. Finished the transaction. Left. And seemed excited to go shoot. Next day we get a call to let us know that night he had killed himself. Went through all that time. All the effort. Could have bought less ammo or a cheaper gun. Just goes to show that sometimes there are no red flags to see. Edit on an actual red flag story. We had a guy come in who seemed drunk. No smell of alcohol on his breath. But slurred words with a bit of off-balanced. Wanted a shotgun for home protection. Was just him. His wife divorced him recently, so just him, alone. Is it a felony to bounce a check? We got 3 big red flags for a strikeout. He passed the background check. But at any time we can choose to not sell anyone anything if we feel the need to. Told him we was denied and it was probably in his best interest. Gave his check back after he asked if we would write him a new one. So partial concern for the guy's well-being. Partial scam attempt. Also, I have a feeling that a lot of people in that situation have had more than enough practice in acting completely normal, and that you would really never be able to tell they are about to kill themselves. This is probably correct for a lot of people who commit suicide after suffering for a long time from some mental illness. But there are people who do it after they break down from a bad experience. Getting dumped, losing their job, getting busted for some crime, etc. They tend to be very emotional and nervous, I'd assume. Probably easier to realize it in such cases. When I first got out of high school, I worked in a pawn shop as the guitar and drums guy. I was there to do music and stereo sales and clean up. But every now and then I would have to work the gun counter. I grew up around guns. Know the difference between a shotgun and a rifle. Got the NRA gun safety certification when I was a kid. All that. I was a lot happier slinging guitars. Though. The gun department had 3 kinds of regular customers: off-duty soldiers, military town, weird old collector dudes, and bikers. I would later find out the bikers were running stolen guns through our shop and the regular gun guy was playing fast and loose with the ATF forms. But that's another story for a different day. One day I got stuck behind the gun counter and this young couple with a kid came in. Little baby in his mother's arms. Father looking at stereo equipment. He wanders over to the gun counter and starts eyeballing the pocket rockets. She bouncing the baby. Trying to look unconcerned. But when he asks to see this little bull hit .32, she sucks teeth and looks away. He seems to be kind of doing it to annoy her. Playfully. But she's not having it. I check to ensure that the weapon is clear. Pop out the mag and hand it to him. He says, "Hey, girl." To get her attention. Then points the gun at her and the baby. Methodica. I nearly lost my mind. I calmly asked if he could hand me the pistol. I put it back in the display case, locked it, and told him that I was sorry, but that I'd be unable to sell him a firearm. I told him that he could go anywhere else and buy a gun. But that what I'd seen him just do was how people end up in the newspaper. He blew a little steam at me. But I think she was grateful. And they left. TL. Doctor, young family came into my shop. Dad took less than 5 seconds to break the first rule of gun safety. I sent him on his way /no gun. So you're not gonna share that other story? Come on. I honestly don't know all of the details about the gun fencing operation. Like I said, I was the musical instrument and stereo kid. But the gun guy, a truly massive man who had all of the AYCE restaurants in town on lock, was apparently doing some under the table buying and selling of guns. Completely off the books. With the local chapter of the Redacted, I just googled the MC name, and there's only one big chapter. I'm not about to get myself killed over some hit that happened a couple of decades ago. I noticed some guns seemed to never make their way to the display case. Some guns would fall out of pawn, meaning they were available and legal to sell, and would just disappear from the shop. Sometimes a couple of Motto brothers would come in and ask for the main gun guy, and if he wasn't there, they'd say they would be back later. One day, an old employee of the pawn shop got rehired, and his first job for me was to start inventorying the guns. Then the jewelry. Then everything else. Brand, model number, serial number, on everything in the shop. What I didn't know was that the owner had caught wind of the scam, was worried that the ATF was going to come swooping in, and was trying to do a fraud audit without raising the alarm with the motorcycle club and gun guy. Man. Things got tense around there for a while. And I still kind of resent the fact that I wasn't told what was actually going on. Because I could have easily been fed to the alligators if they thought I was trying to bust them and wasn't completely blind to the whole situation. Eventually, I got accepted into a college. Moved away. Stopped back at Thanksgiving by and got the whole story. The owner managed to either track down specific guns or just burn the paperwork on the ones that were ducked and keep the lid on the whole thing. Gun guy was caught between the owner and the possibility that he might get thrown over the fence to the police and the ATF and the motorcycle club, who, when he went to them and said, "I think they're onto us," said to him, "Bro, they're onto you. There is no us. We don't go to jail. Your whole family doesn't catch on fire." Got it? He was a weak man. He marinated and roasted in his cowardice for a couple of years, working for free to pay back the owner of the pawn shop for everything that didn't add up, and toeing the line, trying not to get dragged behind some Harleys. White supremacy tattoos. Clothing. jewelry etc. And making thinly veiled threats about blood traitors, me apparently. Stumbling into the store hit-faced / stoned / tweaking. Admitting to felony assault, but it was so long ago. Admitting to being in court for domestic violence, I haven't been charged, yet my lawyer said I could get one. Or admitting they just crashed their car and fled the scene and needed to get a pistol so the police couldn't get them. And my favorite, guy walked in and wanted to buy 2 FN57s, fairly expensive pistols. He had a valid concealed handgun permit, license and credit card. He finished his paperwork, paid and then began telling me how cell phone towers are actually mind-controlled devices that use the nanomachines and fluoride put into the air by chemical trails to create a mind-controlling fog, which also explained it was so foggy during the election. He knew this because he worked for the CIA and Illuminati in the 70s. Edit. For clarity, these are all separate examples. Sorry for any confusion. Poor guy. Never mind the cost of the pistol. Think of the cost of keeping it fed. That ammunition isn't common or cheap. Edit. Apparently my antiquated notion about the price of these rounds is wrong and the price has dropped quite a bit this past year. Or the grilled cheese this wacko probably feeds his guns while he talks to them about current events. Make sure to like and subscribe so we can watch together.